My name is Krupa Patel and today's my topic is connecting with practice, story time transition to nap time. To begin with, let me give you a brief introduction to this topic. ACCQA promotes the concept of reflective practice where daily routine are regarded as effective learning experiences. In this presentation, the emphasis is put on the way calm transition, like switching between story time and rest time, serve as a contributors to emotional and cognitive preparedness. By purposely teaching and by encouraging communications, teachers create an atmosphere of calmness, belonging, and predictability. The presentation will seek to illustrate how the everyday transition will contribute to holistic development and through the National Early Learning Frameworks. Now, moving on to the next slide. It is conducted within a family daycare environment and the children are 4 years old. The background is replacement of story time by nap time as one of the major daily routines which provide a balance between active and restful activities. The teacher establishes a regular or emotionally secure atmosphere that makes children feel safe. Purposive communication, anticipatory interactive tools, and affection form the transition process, facilitating the children and encouraging autonomy and emotional regulation. Next, I would like to highlight significance of the activity. The transitions play an important role in the development of young children as they can ensure emotional safety and foreseeability in everyday life. A seamless transition between the active time of play or learning and the rest period will lead to a decrease in anxiety, a sense of cooperation, and the creation of relaxed environment. The story time transition helps to fill the gap between cognitive stimulation and relaxation and help children to self-regulate and cope with change on their own. These procedures generate self-confidence, strength, and self-awareness. Now, I will talk about educator's role. The teacher will be at the center stage in helping the children to make smooth transitions through the application of soothing tone, common signals, and sympathetic speech. The educator establishes the emotional atmosphere within the group. Self-regulation is internalized through modeling of calmness in children. The sensitivity of the educator to the needs of each child would make everyone feel respected, safe, and supported. Purposeful instruction in transition changes routine activities into purposeful development. Now I will talk about description of the activity. In the course of the activity, the educator reads a story to set the children in the rest time. The narrative is arresting and promotes the appeal of the heart. At the end of the reading, there is a change in the tone and pace of the educator as a sign that rest time is being approached. Such a regular routine creates trust and makes children predict what is to come further. The exercise is a good example of how storytelling may be used to facilitate the engagement process and facilitate a smooth change in emotions. Now, purpose of story time before rest. Before sleep, story time has various educational and emotional effects. It boosts language and literacy development of children through the presentation of new vocabulary and narrative. Simultaneously, it enhances relaxation, focus, and emotional preparedness to sleep. Children develop their social groups and cohesion through common storytelling. These deliberate strategies help in nurturing the children in a holistic manner, for an example, learning literacy and emotional well-being. Now, I will talk about children's reflections. The reactions of children were very active and emotional. They also enjoyed the story and gave their own personal interpretation of the character and events. Their thoughts showed increased understanding and realization of narrative sequencing. Children came to feel confident in articulating their ideas and feeling through the discussion and demonstrate how thoughtful conversations post story time enhance knowledge and communication abilities and foster a sense of belonging and experience. The children were interested in their learning, and this was demonstrated by listening, body language, and talking. They raised insightful questions, related events of the story to personal experiences, and were empathetic to characters. These actions are the indications of the growing understanding, emotional intelligence, and cooperative learning. Responsive communication by the educator also facilitated curiosity and attention, which showed that storytelling helps in cognitive, emotional, and social developments within early learning settings. This slide shows evidence of learning outcomes. The outcomes obtained conform to EYLF learning outcomes 3 and 5. The well-being was demonstrated as the smooth transitions without interruptions and awareness of remembering story details. They were self-confident, focused, and were emotionally stable. The task focused on the literacy level, emotional regulation, and identification. This fact indicates the use of pre-calculated schemes in the support of learning and well-being. That is why teaching should be encouraged in the daily life. Such an action made the children to feel like a part of the group. Better emotional reassurance and trust was established since transition and narrations were known and typical among the people. The children were made to believe that they are useful and they belong to a conducive environment. This was attained by encouraging cooperation and respect between the peers, and the educator facilitated this. All these experiences were strengthening the identity of every child and made them feel a sense of self-confidence and belonging in the care environment. Now, I'll talk about educator strategies. Same sounds and pictures which the teacher permits to signal what happens in a sequence that it can be understood and anticipated. The teaching was deliberate and it was attached on very quiet, excited activities based on the level of convenience of the children. Such as strategies as a low tone voice and eye contact and gentle reminders were implemented in order to foster a cooperation. This creative paradigm showed how responsive teacher could alter the various aspects to suit individual needs in order to create inclusive, emotion-sensitive, and developmentally responsive learning opportunities. The transition was also caused by the physical environment. There were no big crowds in the tables and the lamps were small, ensuring the place quiet and predictable. Reading corner was very interesting and peaceful enough to concentrate one's mind on it, as in case of story time when children could sleep. The organization encouraged liberty and security and led to religion and interaction. This environment suggests that sensitive environment design may lead to emotional security and learning under the structured and supportive environments. Story time may be continued in further learning. Teachers can prompt children to retell their stories using their own words, to draw scenes or characters, and to engage in sequence game in order to reinforce the understanding. Themes and morals of the stories can be revisited in the morning discussions, which help in the reflection and recall. These extensions improve literacy, creativity, and critical thinking, extending the learning that was initiated during the transition between story time to rest. This slide shows additional resources. The use of various resources may add to the storytelling process. Puppets and emotion card can contribute to visualization and expression of feeling in children. Background music should be soft, encouraging graceful transition, and sensual properties such as text cloth should be used to provide tactile comfort. These materials will facilitate emotional control, facilitate participation, and address the learning preferences of every child. So, no child would be deprived of an inclusive and multisensory storytelling method. Observation and documentation. Systemic observation lets educators know and plan the learning of each child. Anecdotal observations, example of artwork, and even the reflections of stories are useful data of the progress. Reflective practice is facilitated by documentation in daily journals and aids in learning trends. This evidence-based solution guarantees the responsiveness individually as well as alignment of planning with the principles of the EYLF of intentional as well as reflective teaching. EYLF V2.0 Principles in Practice. The routine observed is reflective of EYLF V2.0 in relation to the importance of secure relationships, holistic teaching, and inclusive practices. The reflective approach models the intentionally of the educator, helping in the emotional and cognitive development. Children find a sense of belonging and well-being with the help of play-based learning and responsive interaction. Cultural and personal diversity is recognized, which supports the idea of regard, fairness, and learning alliances that the EYLF has. Now, National Framework Alignment. This practice is in line with National Quality Framework, especially Quality Areas 1 Educational Program and Practice, and 5 Relationship with the Children. It also helps in focus of national law on the well-being and the rights of children. This reflective and deliberate practice by the educator will be safe, inclusive, and developmentally appropriate. This alignment indicates professional compliance with the national standards in early childhood education. Educator reflection. Reflection helped the educator to understand the efficiency of applying soothing tones and well-known signals to reinforce the emotional well-being of children. The transition of story time created a supportive atmosphere which is based on trust. The opportunity to select their own stories was one of the areas where the growth can be achieved as it increases the autonomy and the interest. The continuous reflection contributes to the professional development, constant improvement, and attentiveness to changing interests and needs of children. Now, I will talk about reflective summary. The care learning interaction achieved literacy and well-being outcomes of the activity. The self-regulation, belonging, and confidence were improved through story time transitions. The intentional and thoughtful attitude of the teacher improved practice and augmented knowledge of the learning actions of children. It is seen in this discussion that the everyday activities are pertinent in making holistic growth and development of meaningful relationships between play, learning. In conclusion, the key message is such a transition as the story time to rest might be an effective learning process that fosters emotional intelligence and lifelong learning. Careful and considerate teachers are such that all routines spread the feeling of safety and interest to the children. This practice rationalized the input of empathy, consistency, and professional development in the profession of early childhood education. Finally, successful transitions provide more education, well-being, and positive association between the teacher and children. Thank you for the listening.